Kris Krohn here with Limitless TV, and today we're talking about on how you calculate your cash-on-cash returns. What is a cash-on-cash return? Is it important to know what it is? In my world, it is the most important figure before I ever pull the trigger. Cash-on-cash return. How do I calculate that? Is it an important number? For me, it's one of the most important ROIs that I can calculate. Because if I put $1 in, I want to know, am I getting a dime back this year? If I put $1 in, am I getting $1 back this year? And so this is the really big picture. It's cash in versus cash out on my return. So before I show you the example of a house, let me just kind of put it to you this way. If I were to take $1,000 and put it in something, in that same year, I get $100. I still have my $1,000 investment, but it produced $100 for me. Then what is my cash on cash for the year? It's 10%. I made 10% on my money. If I put $1,000 in and I get $500 back and I still have my principal in the investment, that is a 50% cash on cash return. That is a really hot cash on cash. A lot of the real estate that I do, my cash on cash returns range from 15 to 30%. That's why a lot of people watch these videos, click the link below and say, Kris, I want to partner with you. I got money sitting in a 401k or an IRA, and man, it sounds like you could easily outperform that. Let's partner up and do something, right? Well, what I'm really sharing with you here is what's called opportunity cost. And I'm going to break this down super simple because this was an economic principle that in college took me like 2 months to grasp. But it's actually really simple. The opportunity cost is what is the next best option I am foregoing based on my current one. Here's an example. I put $1,000 in my savings account and my bank is giving me 1%. So I put $1,000 in to the bank and they give me $10 at the end of the year. That's a 1% return. That is not exciting. Inflation is somewhere between 3 and 4%. So you're losing 2 to 3% a year on your money. By the way, if your money's not earning you 3%, you're just at break even. Everything becomes more expensive with time. Houses, goods, everything becomes more expensive. Commodities increase in value. So first of all, if you want to even think retirement, you can't afford to be thinking 401ks and IRAs because you're sitting at 3%. You're not even like keeping up with inflation in that scenario. Let's apply this to real estate because that's what we do. If I were to buy a house, and let's just say for a moment that this house has a value of $200,000. Let's say that I could purchase this house for $160,000. That's a 20% discount. That's 20% of equity. The difference between these numbers, 200 grand and 160. 160 is what I owe. It's what I bought it for. $200,000 is what it's worth. That's a $40,000 equity position. But the bank says, hey, sounds like you got a good deal here, but you got to put 20% down. Okay, what's 20% on 16,000? Well, 16 times 2 is $32,000. So if I put a down payment of $32,000, what I'm effectively going to owe on this property is somewhere around $128,000. Now, that $32,000 isn't gone. It's just a part of my equity position. My $40,000 of equity plus my $32,000 down payment now makes $72,000 of equity. The house is a third paid off. Now I have to ask myself, was this a good investment? I put cash in. I put in $32,000. The question is, what are you giving me back? Let's say that this house is producing a $400 a month cash flow. It's a lease option. And so I actually collected a down payment. I'm going to make this a little more complicated. Watch one of my lease option videos if you want me to slow it down just a hair. If I collect on my lease option a down payment from the tenant of $5,000, and they're doing a 2-year lease, and then in addition to that, I have a $400 a month cash flow. Now, $400 for an entire year is $4,800. So I've got $4,800 in year 1, and it's a 2-year lease. So guess what I have in year 2? $4,800 in year 2, and we know that the $5,000 was a deposit, non-refundable for 2 years. So if I add all of this up, guess what it comes down to? It comes to $14,600. Now that is spread, remember, after how many years? That's spread over 2 years. If I just want to know what my annualized cash on cash is, I would need to cut this in half, which is going to be $7,300. If I put $32,000 in and I get $7,300 back, plus I stepped into $40,000 of equity, let's just find out what's going on here. Well, I got good news. That here represents a 22.8% ROI. I'm making almost 23% on my money this year, 23% on my money next year. I walked into $40,000 of equity, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm looking at, if I put 32 in, and let's say I'm getting back $7,300, then that's what's creating my cash on cash ROI, which in this case is 22.8%. If you're going to be a real estate investor, this is math you need to know how to do. All I did was take this number, I divided it by the money I put in, times it by 100 to move from a percentage, and it gave me the 22.8%. Simple math, helping you understand what your cash on cash is. Now, how would you like for this number to be traded for an infinite return? That's what's coming your way. So here's the big question. How do you actually calculate your cash on cash return if you don't have any money in the deal? And I've been doing my deals like that for the last 15 years. So even this week, I'm getting another massive check. I didn't put any money in. It's an infinite return. It's a massive gain for me. So what I'll do is if I can't look at the money, then I'll actually look at the time. On most of these deals, I put in 3, 4, or 5 hours. So if I get a $20,000 check and I put in 10 hours, that's $2,000 an hour. That's what I love about getting to the point of no money down. That's what really ends up being a huge game changer in the world and game that I play in. This needs to be your goal in real estate because we're all trained to think small. I need the money, I need the credit, I need the deal. No, I've got the deals, someone else has the credit, someone else has the money, and you can have all of it. And when you do, your cash on cash return is super sexy because there's only one way to write out that percentage, and it's this infinity loop, which is super awesome. It's taken over a decade to build a system where the type of cash on cash returns are available to me now than never before. And guess what? You can get your hands on all of my deals at my next 3-day real estate wealth intensive event. All you got to do is click the link below, learn about it, get a ticket, hop on out here, and start accessing some of the very best investments in the world.